All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us early. Appreciate having you all on here. We are excited to talk about endpoint visibility. And in the meantime, I wanted to hear kind of what everybody thought of our LinkedIn endpoint visibility videos on LinkedIn recently last week. So feel free to go ahead and drop in the chat if you had a favorite video that you saw. I had my own two favorites that I actually have queued up here. So since you're all a captive audience and we are going to wait a couple minutes just to let some folks join, that means I get to show them to you. So here got John Snyder's. I think this one's hilarious. So let me just get my audio ready and enjoy the creativity of the Liongard team.
Today's a big day here at Liongard today. So it's about 6 a.m. Had to get outside, hit my local wetlands reserve trail, touch some grass, go for a run, get the blood running. You might be asking yourself, John, why are you wearing sunglasses? Isn't it really unsafe to have less than perfect visibility? Aren't there water moccasins or skunks like you just ran past? Well, you know what? You're right. It is unsafe, and it is way better to have complete visibility. That's why Liongard is expanding its unified visibility into the endpoint. Endpoint visibility starts today. Windows 10, 11 workstations. Let's go, baby. Woo!
I love that one. He just totally surprised us all with it, and it just got me. We got one more minute here, so I got enough time to show another quick video. So let's go ahead and see what Jackie put together.
Getting to the end shouldn't be this messy. With endpoint visibility, you get the data you need in the platform you love. Available now.
Okay, y'all, I gotta be honest. She drew that herself. I can't draw that well on normal paper. Cannot imagine how she did that on toilet paper. So huge props to her. We got some really creative people here. If anyone is curious and wants to see what our oh, do I still have these? Okay, I guess not. What we've got going on over on Endpoint Visibility Land. What a terrible bug. Take a look at all the videos here. I'm going to drop that into the chat. And since it is 1:03 p.m., you can see where my brain's at. We are going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We are so excited to talk to you about Liongard's new endpoint visibility solution. I'm Matt Siegel. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm a senior product marketing manager here at Liongard. And I have with me today Sean Saylor and Scott Davis, and they're going to come along for the ride and help explain demo endpoint visibility. Sean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Sean Saylor. I lead the sales team over at Liongard. Been here since we originally came to market, and very excited to have you guys on the call today. Scott.
Hey everyone, Scott Davis, the sales engineer here at Liongard. I'm here to really jump in at the end of the presentation and give you guys a great look at what endpoint visibility looks like and the power that you can do with it.
Fantastic. So before we get started, just a quick reminder, we are going to have a live Q&A at the end of this webinar, and we are going to have that Q&A open starting now. So if you haven't used Zoom Webinar before, if you have any questions that come up, dropping them into the Q&A is a great way to make sure they don't get lost, since the chat can sometimes move quickly. So if you go over to your Zoom webinar control panel, you can see there's a sort of chat bubble button that says Q&A. Click that open. You can take a look, drop your questions as we go. We can get to them, and we can have some great conversations going before we even get to the end where the Q&A will open up.
All right. Well, I'm sure you're all here as a result of the wild social media campaign and announcement of Liongard's endpoint visibility, and we're glad to have you. So let's get rocking and rolling.
All right, so we know everybody's excited to hear about endpoint visibility, and we're going to get there. But to explain it really well, first we need to take a step into the way, way back machine to a time in the distant past, 2005.
Yikes. All right, so back in the day, things were a whole lot more simple, but I get a little bit of heartburn, just thinking about some of the frustration that we had back then. But you have to appreciate where we came from in order to appreciate where we're headed to.
Yeah. I mean, I was just excited to play Snake on my color iPad, and I didn't know anything about Kubernetes or ransomware attacks. It was a simpler time with much simpler solutions.
And so if we take a quick trip down memory lane, does this visual touch a nerve to some of the folks that are on the call today? If so, you can use the reaction or drop a little note in the chat. But you know, in the early days, being a managed service provider and tracking things in spreadsheets, it was very painful. But those days are gone. But those days were also a lot more simpler, right? And even in those earlier times, when we were managing fires daily and end users would hunt you down if you were in IT and bring you their problems. Instead of yelling, take a number, you guys also started organizing the chaos a bit more with ticketing solutions to build a much better end user customer experience. So let's fast forward to today. So the landscape that you guys are involved in has evolved rapidly. This is both good and it's bad. And the IT stack today is very disorganized and it's overwhelming. And that's why you guys chose Liongard in the first place. Many of you here today have heard this story, but others of you are joining today for the very first time and just getting a visual of this chaos that your life has evolved into for the very first time. Now, this chaos was what was the inspiration behind Liongard helping the MSP mature and evolve. We do not want you guys to have to burn the candle at both ends, and you don't have to. And we certainly want you to be profitable. You got in this business in order to give your customers an opportunity to embrace technology and make money along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And in addition to that, it's not all about the money, even though that is a great part of it. You know, what's the point of having all that financial success if you're just stressed all the time? If your work follows you home, if you're missing lunches or missing time with your folks or your family, we really want to make sure that your work can stay in the office by giving you tools you need to take care of everything and not have it follow you home.
That's right, Matt. And Liongard has really changed the way that the MSP works and gives you what we call unified visibility. And it's that one place that's collecting that data, inspecting all those systems for you automatically every single day. That's exactly what Liongard delivers. And that is the ability for you as the MSP to standardize the collection of that data, secure those systems because you've got deep visibility into how they're configured, and scale with automation instead of people. You know, we've got a talent shortage in this community for sure. And every time there's a patch update, for instance, you need to see if it went through to every single customer. You can use Liongard to get that information. And when you're onboarding a customer, instead of spending 40 hours of your most valuable resources time onboarding that customer, you can cut that down to a fraction of the time. That's why you chose Liongard. And it's unified visibility that has really changed the way that all of our partners are working. So what do we really mean by unified visibility? It's one place that you can go to that gives you a breadth of information across the stack, right? So breadth of coverage across the stack, including like cloud, network, on-premise apps and services, and it gives you that rich detail of data, deep configuration detail. That's the depth. And those systems, that information is kept over time. And when you combine those three together, that's what Liongard is delivering. And it's a triple threat, and it's very, very powerful. So breadth, depth, over time. That's what I want to make sure that you guys are walking away with today too.
Yeah, and you know, Sean, you mentioned Liongard Core earlier, and I want to make sure that the folks who are joining us for the first time, or who might just want a refresher, or who can't just fast forward through this part, so please bear with us, know what Liongard Core is. And that's really the set of technologies that make up your customer's technology environment. You know, things like cloud services, network devices, Active Directory, antivirus, and all those sorts of things and more make up the basic Liongard Core license that provides you with the unified visibility Sean was just talking about.
Absolutely. So let's revisit that chaos that we referred to earlier. So when you're managing IT like this guy with data scattered all over the place, in each of those systems that you're supporting, they have their own portal, their own reporting, and their own alerting. You have to look at them all individually, tenant by tenant or customer by customer. So it's really nearly impossible to keep up with everything. And there's simply not enough cycles in the day, even with the best engineers in the world, to make it happen. And why would you rather solve a problem, or would you rather solve a problem is probably a better question to ask, with data scattered like this, or would you rather have it in a much organized manner like you see here, okay? Now that you guys have Liongard, a bulk of you on this call, and those that are considering checking us out, your data will be organized in one central place. And that's that central place that's providing you that unified visibility all across the stack. Now, Liongard Core includes more than 70 different system inspections to help you get a handle on all of that chaos. And now Liongard is bringing you even more with the endpoint, with endpoint visibility.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on something quickly here, because every time I think about a call coming in, or somebody pressuring you to answer a question, it's so much harder to navigate this kind of clutter to find an answer when you've got somebody breathing down your neck than when you know where everything is. Like, man, I'd rather know where that stuff is happening. All right, getting on to endpoint visibility. It's here. Welcome, everyone. This is our new product. It's finally here. We've had partners asking for it. We've had people in our community who don't have Liongard asking for it, and we're finally bringing you unified visibility to the endpoint. This is huge. It's going to change the way that endpoints get managed. You'll have 18 months of historical data to look back into changes that have happened over your endpoints. We are so excited to bring it to you. We even had one partner when we revealed this back in October say, "I'm a faint," because they just couldn't believe it was finally here. This is fantastic, and I am sure everyone is wondering what exactly it entails. So Sean, could you just quickly walk us through what Liongard's endpoint visibility covers? And in the meantime, I'm going to launch a poll because we're curious to understand more, what you all are doing to manage your endpoints, what your concerns are and what the scope of your endpoint management looks like.
Awesome, thanks, Matt. So endpoint visibility is what's going to give you insight into all of your Windows servers, your Linux servers, but now it also includes Windows Workstation. So it's going to give you visibility into those Windows 10 and 11 desktops, laptops, workstations, all without requiring admin level permissions as well. So it's really cool. It's a fast way for you to get some visibility into this work from anywhere world that we're in as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that work from anywhere world is so important when you think about managing modern endpoints. I mean, it has changed everything. COVID really impacted that pretty strongly, but even now it's here to stay. That's a market force that you can't do anything about. And it's made managing endpoints a lot more difficult. We like to think about work from anywhere under 3 pillars and sort of these 3 C's. On one hand, you have connectivity. People just aren't on the same, standard homogenized network anymore in an office building. They're on their own home networks. They might be at a coffee shop just barely out of range of the Wi-Fi. Maybe they're trying to do a big upload on their 5 meg mobile hotspot somewhere in a national park because they're trying to get some work in between rock climbing. I mean, these are all real things, and they can all cause problems that are difficult to get to the root of when somebody calls you in to say, "Hey, my thing's not working and I don't know why." In addition, cybersecurity has really increased with more endpoints that are out and about in the world, with the line between a computer machine, gosh, a work machine and a personal machine getting a little bit blurred, with people's kids being around and saying, "Hey, I want to download this Minecraft add-on." They don't realize it's covered in viruses, that it's going to infect something or compromise your network. And there are just so many more different places where you can have a vulnerability lead to compromising a network. Making sure your endpoints are secure at scale and having the tools to do that is more important than ever. And one of the things about working from anywhere is that you're not all working in the same spot. You can't just go down the hall to talk to your friend to ask them a question. You have to rely on your computer and your collaboration tools to do that. That means Teams, Slack, and Zoom, if those are down, all of a sudden you're isolated and you can't do the work you need to. Guaranteed, I think we all know this, those things tend to break at the worst possible times. And when somebody calls you saying, "Hey, my Teams is down and I dropped out of this important meeting, my Slack isn't working," they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't change anything. It just happened all of a sudden, and it's your problem to fix. So we want to give you tools to address that. And that's really where Liongard comes in. Same way that we wanted to help you with unified visibility, we're bringing that to the endpoint. We want to help you scale and grow. We want to help you monetize and increase your profits. And we want to make life easier for you, because these endpoint calls can, Sean, you said this best, I think, they really eat your lunch. All of a sudden you go from having great plans to go for a walk to, well, I guess I'm stuck on for another hour with this person to try and solve their problem. And thanks for everybody for filling out our poll. Once I find my mouse here, I'm going to go ahead and end this and take a look at what everyone is sharing here. So it looks like majority of folks are managing somewhere under 500 endpoints, with about the rest of you somewhere in that 500 to 1,000 or 1,000 to 2,000 range. And then a few folks out here, one person out in the 5,000 plus range. So good for you. Congratulations on managing all those, with an even split across different problems, from installing unexpected softwares, connectivity issues. You all can kind of read this as it's up. I'm going to let the webinar keep going here. But thank you all for sharing that information, and letting us know kind of where you're at with your own challenges. And that's all I have to say about endpoint visibility. You know, you all joined to see the product itself, so I'm going to kick it over to our very own professor, Scott Davis. Got one of my own favorite professors here, Indiana Jones. Not everybody remembers he was actually a college professor. No, I think it's a shame. But Scott, I'm going to go ahead and let you screen share here and show us what endpoint visibility is all about.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Sean, for that great introduction and great presentation overall on what endpoint visibility is and what it brings to Liongard. Now, I get the easy task. I get to just show you what Liongard's endpoint visibility does. So I've started out already. I am in the Liongard portal, and I'm already in the Windows Workstation Inspector. Here, let me make this a little bit easier so you guys can follow my cursor. I'll highlight it there in green. So as you can see, I'm already in our Windows Workstation Endpoint Visibility Inspector. So I'm going to start out going into one of my Windows 10 laptops here and just kind of show you some of the things that makes endpoint visibility special. First and foremost, stands out across the board. Every one of Liongard's inspectors gives you this timeline showing you the data and how the data is going back. Being able to go back in time and saying, oh, well, what changed here? Going over to changes and being able to see exactly the applications that have been upgraded, a drive that has changed, and so much more. That same timeline functionality is throughout the Liongard platform with all of our inspectors. So let me go back here. Let's rewind time here. Let's go back here to 12:15. And when I get into the nuts and bolts of it, I can see my system overview data. It's going to give you the basic information like what the operating system is, the user, the model, the serial number. You know, it's breaking down that core information that you would need to know, and probably is some overlap in some of the tools that you already have deployed out. The hardware screen here, the hardware tab, very similar, same sort of thing. You know, there is some overlap with some of the other tools that you probably have, but if we take a look at this, we dig a little bit deeper. So when I look at processor, I am getting your max clock speed, your thread counts, I'm seeing your motherboard serial number, your network adapter information, with BIOS information here. An important thing with BIOS is there was just last week, I think it was, I saw a alert of it's time to update BIOSes, as there's a pretty severe security vulnerability out there. So being able to track that version of firmware that you are running is something that we're probably not doing a good job with today. Breaking down your RAM, your GPU, your drives, monitors, keyboards and mice, and getting into USB devices. So the story here that I want to share is with the keyboards and mice more specifically. If you remember, I think it was October of last year, there was the vulnerability that came out with the Razer mice. And the Razer mice had a vulnerability that simply by plugging the mouse in, it granted a local user the capability of elevating their permissions to an admin account. Well, that's a pretty big security risk, especially depending on what that user has access to or what an admin level access on a local machine could do. Could you imagine if you had a server out on the floor, or in some of the small businesses that you're in, they're probably right there next to someone's desk, just simply plugging in a mouse and gaining that administrative privilege. Now, I went through a couple of the RMM sandboxes that we have, and I tried to recreate or try to generate a report of who had mice. And I plugged a Razer mouse in, and I went through the process, and it was a time-consuming process. It wasn't something that was easily done. With Liongard, right here, you can see I'm pulling the types of mouse that's plugged in, what's the status is, the description, and even the manufacturer. So really quickly and simply, I was able to identify where the Razer mouse was plugged in. So now my team could react to that vulnerability shortly after it was announced and get correct mice over until the software patch was updated. I can get over into your software. Now I talked already with that timeline functionality where highlighting when those software changes happen And the story that I like telling with this is along the lines of, hey, my computer was working fine yesterday, but now it's not working. This app will not run. I don't know what broke, but I need it now. I need it urgently. It's typically someone in accounting, payroll day, and the world is on fire. We've all been in those shoes. So we go into, the existing tools that we have. We're taking a look. We're seeing what things are today. There's not the capability of showing what it was yesterday when the user's saying it's working. So now being able to see that same list of software, the install location, install date, the versions that are there, and then utilizing that timeline. If I'm just getting the phone call, hitting that run button, getting a new data print of it, and being able to see now what has changed. It can speed up your time to resolution dramatically when used appropriately. You can also see your core information here on the operating system. Same sort of things with your updates and patches. Think of this as that auditing tool to make sure the tools that you have that are managing and pushing these updates out are actually working. I remember one situation I was a VCIO before joining Liongard. So I was walking into a QBR and I had the president of the board, walk over to me, put his laptop in front of me and say, why does it say I have 160 Windows updates that need applied? Well, my tool should have been patching it. It was set to patch it. I was kind of in that situation of, I don't have a good answer for you. I relayed that I would research it, we'd figure it out, we'd get the updates done. It turned out that there was a checkbox missing that said if the computer's off to apply updates on the next boot up, that was off. Every Saturday night during the maintenance window, he had his computer off and in its briefcase. So the updates were never getting done. In my mind, the tool was working. The tool was saying it's working because the tool has them scheduled to update. So it's not an issue because they're scheduled, but they weren't getting done. With Liongard being able to see what available updates are there, getting smart actionable alerting off of those, and even seeing what installed updates are there is a humongous thing for auditing to make sure the existing tools you have are doing what you programmed them to do. Now, Liongard even takes it a little bit deeper. So these next two tabs that I want to show you, network diagnostics and security, is taking what the tools give you today and are going deeper in thought process. So here you can see your external, your internal IP address, but we're also running a speed test here and giving you a download speed. That situation that, hey, things were working fine yesterday, today it's not. Well, yesterday you were on 184 meg internet connection, today you're on a 5. Are you working out of a coffee shop? Getting into the network details. Onboarding is always a stressful point. And I remember multiple times going in, doing an onboarding, and lo and behold, through investigation, sometimes a couple months later, that I would find devices were only connecting plugged in at 100 megs a second. Lo and behold, we would find somewhere behind some printer a 10100 hub or switch indicating that it was just thrown there and completely forgotten about. So identifying some of these things early in the stages of onboarding with smart documentation is absolutely huge and helps you get the client up to speed even faster. You can see DNS enabled, what DNS servers, the default gateway. We will ping and run a trace route by default on the router or your host, but you can add an additional IP address. So you have that virtual desktop infrastructure, you have that VPN or that critical application. You want to see what the latency looks like and make sure that the user is getting good connections. With Liongard, you can do that extremely easy. Digging down, we have your network details extended, all 35 metrics or all 35 settings that you would potentially set within your network details. Excuse me. And finally, that security tab that I've already talked about. Here, I'm actually going to switch over to another workstation. So I'm going to go back here to workstation. I'm going to go to Contoso Nation. And going back to that onboarding, how many times have you come across an MSP that was intentionally trying to slow their computers down? This is what it reminds me of. 1, 2, 3, 4 different antivirus products installed. I've seen it in real life. It's embarrassing. But here you can see WebRoot and Sentinel-1 are the only two that are enabled, but you can also see that they're up to date. But this is going to help you streamline those onboardings. And in addition, make sure a user just doesn't go out and download AVG and install it. Making sure we stay on top of the security tools that are in place to protect it. Now, if you are using Microsoft Defender, then the next section I think is absolutely beautiful. So when I look at the Windows Defender status section, we're breaking out all of the settings. And each one of these is a separate metric so you can report on it. So say you want to know anytime tamper protection gets turned off, or if that status is ever no, you want an actionable alert. You want to be aware. Or if antivirus gets turned off, or if one access protection gets disabled, being able to identify all of this data across all of your customers that are using Microsoft Defender is absolutely huge. And it's something that's extremely difficult to do with Intune and the tools that Microsoft gives you today out of the box. Even further, we're breaking out all 97 different preferences that Windows Defender has. So if I go through here, you can see the capability in making sure your best practices of what you want to enable to secure those endpoint workstations is actually being done. And no more having a technician audit. Liongard is auditing it for you and telling you when things changed. Windows Defender threats, that same thing, that unified visibility of identifying the threats that have occurred throughout all of the workstations that you're managing. Then you have your firewall status and active TCP connections. And last but not least, I love the local user section. Users on hardware, on servers, on workstations is something we all have to do a better job monitoring, because hackers' thought process is I got in, the first thing I'm doing is creating a backdoor. It could be by creating a local user account on that server that no one logs into, or it could be on the workstation that someone gave them access to. Or in the work from anywhere world mindset, well, I have local admin rights. I'm going to set up an account for my kids, so at least I'm being secure by not having them use my profile. It still is a security risk if they're going in, playing Minecraft, downloading whatever on the same computer that you're using for work. So tracking those user accounts is always critical. Now, I am going to show you one or maybe a couple more things here. The Data Print Explorer. If you are a Liongard partner, I highly recommend taking out the new table, checking out the new table view. I absolutely have fallen in love with it. And the great thing about Liongard is all the data we collect, we give you access to. So we just showed you a whole lot of data that we're reporting on automatically out of the box, but you have the capability of digging in and saying you really want to get in and see network configuration and IP addresses, and you want to pull out a certain field here and make it a metric and report on it. You have the capability of doing that. And as you see, going back in breadcrumbs, I can dig in deeper, I can go in, I can go out extremely easier.
Hey, Scott, can you define like what a metric is and how powerful that is for them to use it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually the next stop on my tour. So perfect segue. If I come here to admin and metrics. So when Liongard goes out and collects data, we pull it into that data print that I just showed you. We use James Path queries to pull data out of that JSON data print. And that's where you have what our metrics are. So if I type in Windows Workstation here, you can see out of the box. In fact, it may not be. We may have created some here. Let's just make sure I'm speaking right. So there's 74 out of the box included with Liongard up front. And that things like, is your RDP enabled? Is antivirus on the system? What is your RAM capacity? Being able to see this inside your other tools like Lifecycle Insights, BrightGauge, Power BI, or setting change notifications on that. This is the timeline view here. You know, anytime that RDP gets enabled, I want that triggered on the timeline because that's a compliance issue that I need to be able to track going back in time. So our metrics using these queries that are James Path pull the data out. With the capability that we give you to create your own, allows you to get the data that matters to you as the MSP. Now, I can't talk about metrics if I don't jump into the actionable alert section. And the actionable alerts are what actually is going to trigger that email into your PSA, that email to you, the email to your co-managed customer, or a Teams message just to pop up because, hey, this is a pretty critical alert. So if I go in and go, same thing, workstation, Windows Workstation created by Liongard. Here you can see we have 11 pre-built actionable alerts that are already in the system, ready for you to activate. Things like guest accounts not enabled, a change to Windows Defender, change to your antivirus, an RDP getting enabled, change local users, change the drives, defender threats, mandatory updates that are not installed, a drive with less than 15%. So this is just, a small footprint of what Liongard can deliver for you with endpoint visibility. With this, I think we're going to switch over and open up for Q&A.
Well, one thing to follow up on those actionable alerts, the beautiful thing on those actionable alerts is that those alerts can go into your ticketing solution, your PSA. They can also go to things like Teams, including if your customer has Teams and you have a mutual relationship and managing IT with them. It's really great for those types of things. So great overview, Scott. We've got some questions that are actually in the Q&A. It looks like Barb, and I answered one for Barbara, but I do want to kind of address it real quick, and then I'm going to turn the rest over to you, Scott. So she had asked, can you push out updates via Liongard, or is it more of a reporting and diagnose solution? So my response to that is definitely, we're not making management changes to all of your systems today, but we will certainly give you the data that you need to diagnose the problem and track the changes that you make when you do remediate it. So your techs get to be techs. They're the world's worst at documentation. When they go in and fix a problem, they don't need to go update documentation. We're going to take care of that for them. And when you're solving a problem, think about what happens. 95% of it is research. You need data that you can trust, and we've got it. And the other 5% is actually flipping the bit to fix it. So we have that data. It gives you those insights. Those insights allow you to take action, and it's those actions that deliver those superior outcomes that you're looking for delivery to your customers. So Scott, if you want to take the rest of those, it looks like we've got a few other questions that are dropping in.
Yeah, Sean,
I got one.
I would add one more point to what you're just saying. And when you get into a management tool, you're talking about now another agent that has to have God level or admin access. And with the Liongard agent, we work off of that local user's right. So we don't need that God level access. We're working off of that local user. And that's absolutely crucial. And as you go through and you get familiar with what Liongard does, you'll see in every one of our inspectors, it really starts with that least privilege approach of what do we need access to report on the data MSPs want to see, and how can we do that with the least privileges possible. So we definitely take that approach, and we push that approach to the workstations as well. And it's one of my favorite things to mention is the simple fact that you don't need admin rights on the workstation for our agent to run. And that's why we are an auditing tool versus the management tool today.
So one thing from the chat that I want to get to, just for the friends in the recording who are watching this now, we had one question coming from Richard asking, is all the information available in the timeline? And if so, what does that mean for overhead and for performance of Liongard? I know our timeline feature is incredible. I'm so glad it's finally there for the Windows workstation and your Windows servers and Linux servers. But how does that impact the performance of Liongard when you're gathering all that data?
I haven't seen any negative impact. When we look at that timeline, it's the data that you want to appear there. So you have that capability within Liongard to say, I want to know this in the timeline. I want this also in a ticket in my PSA. So you have that capability to run it in that way and choose what data you see. So I do have a couple other questions. I think I answered that one. So in the Q&A section, how does endpoint visibility agent connectivity work? Did I just see that you can do a trace route on demand, or is that just next check-in? So what it's going to do is either next check-in on that scheduled task, or you can manually run that inspector and it will do that trace route, that ping, as well as capture all that new data each time that inspector runs. We have, does the agent collect all the data metrics on each probe, just changes, or when you close one, it messes me up there, Matt.
I'm sorry about that.
How does this get streamlined in the back end? So every time the Liongard inspector runs, we're pulling that full data print. And that is what allows that change management to take a look, because we're comparing your full data print to the next data print. So every time we are running it, from that agent on that workstation, we are collecting all of the data that you just saw, and you can go back in time and see what it was on 11.1, 12.1, or 18 months from now, being able to go back 18 months.
To clarify on that piece too, so we do have the ability to flag on the timeline. We're always capturing changes no matter what, but if you want to be flagged for a specific type of change where you see it visually, you can do that. There's just an extra little button that you flip on that specific metric piece of data that you want to watch, but you can also just as easily get an alert on that change right inside of your ticketing solution too.
Awesome. Will this agent run Azure WVDs? We do have a separate inspector for Azure, but if it's a Windows server within Azure, you should be able to run the agent on it. We have a Windows server inspector as well. So if it's a Windows server, you probably want to run the server, the Windows inspector, which is for servers. But I don't see why it wouldn't run on virtual disks inside Azure as long as the Windows server's there.
Yep, same thing for workstations up there, because I've got one in a sandbox as well.
Will RMM scripts be updated to allow selecting what type of agent to deploy? I believe that's already in our doc site. If it's not, that definitely could be a takeaway that we take and make sure that that gets updated. But when you go to docs.liongard.com, scroll down on the left side to the agent section, and underneath that, there is deploy via, I think it's RMM, which will walk you through the scripts on the different RMMs that are available. Licensing impact. So yes, Matt, do you want to take this one or do you want me to keep going?
Licensing impact. No, I'm just not quite sure what that means.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess if you're asking about pricing, this is based on usage, so that it has some really awesome tiered pricing, just so that we are giving you the best deal that we possibly can based on your usage. So as usage goes up, price goes down per endpoint. And we'd love to show you just what that can do for you and how you can get you set up with EV.
Well, one thing to add in there too. So with your core license, you actually get 5 EV endpoint visibility licenses included with every core license. And so if you're an existing partner, you guys already have this today. So I definitely encourage you to check this out or schedule some time with your account manager to go through it. And if you're new to Liongard and you'd like to learn more and see a full demonstration of the product, including the Windows Workstation Endpoint Visibility Inspector, we definitely welcome that. And I believe those links are in the chat as well. So if you'd like to book some time with either your account manager as an existing partner, or if you're new to Liongard and want to learn more from our new sales team, we would love to interact with you one-to-one.
And just some stuff there too, so these included inspectors are also pooled across all your environments. So it's not like you need to distribute them equally across all of your Liongard instances. You can say, hey, I've got this one VIP partner. I want to make sure customer. I want to make sure I keep them on. Let's load all these inspectors onto their site so we can give them the best possible experience. On the other hand, because these are included, if you've got somebody who's, maybe a little bit on the fence, tough relationship, maybe had a couple rough times, they're trying to commoditize you or move on to another vendor, you can say, hey, we've got this totally free thing we can roll out to your workstations, give them a little bit more of a white glove treatment, give them that VIP status again, like help the relationship stay going as well.
All right. So a couple other questions that I see here. How does it impact the performance of users? In my internal testings, I've seen no impact, even when the inspector runs. I've tried loading up a ton of stuff on my local workstation. It runs, and I have not seen an impact in any of my testing. Obviously, endpoint visibility is relatively new. We've been testing it internally for about a quarter. And again, I've been playing with it on my local machines, my local lab environments. I've been trying to test it, pace it. And I have not seen any negative performance to the end user. Now, if you're going about it and you have, 12 different agents and everything you're doing has an agent deployed, it could be absolutely something that comes up. Is it 100% on the Liongard side? We'd have to look into it with you, and our support team would be more than happy to do that. Can we see one of the reports that Liongard will generate based on an alert? Dakota, is that in the chat? If you can just chime in, are you looking to see kind of inside of a PSA ticketing system? Are you looking to see, can you maybe explain that a little bit more of what you're looking for? And if I can show you here, I will. If not, we'll definitely schedule some time and we can get more in depth with that.
Yeah, that's one of the things about these inspectors is there is so much more than we've been able to show you, and it can really be customized and set up to meet your needs. These are super flexible. We were built with a lot of feedback from our partners to address the common use cases that show up when you're managing these endpoints that currently aren't met by the tech stack and tools out there. So we really built this to fit those gaps in where endpoints are being managed right now.
Yeah, a lot of our partners are commenting to us that they really love the historical piece, the change management element, and also the reporting functionality. So being able to rapidly report across a customer and all of their servers and workstations, and also across all customers, right? So if you want to see really easily if somebody's impacted or has something, you get that from those metrics that we talked about briefly earlier. And you can, those metrics are the most powerful part, because you can do reports, you can do alerts, you can track changes. So a lot of really good stuff. And the one question about rolling it out to, I think there was one when you were asking about performance. Well, we've got partners that have rolled it out to thousands, individual partners that have rolled it out to thousands across all of their customers, and have yet to hear anything you know, in a negative light. They're actually super excited, stoked that they have that visibility, and it's putting them in a much greater position. When we're in this dispersed work environment, this work from anywhere world, and you're supporting a business owner that's working from home, maybe on his personal laptop and not on the company issued one, guess what? You may not necessarily install some of your other tools in there, but you can install a Windows Workstation Inspector for that user and gain some visibility into what's happening, and identify the problem, get to the root cause of things much faster.
All right, so it looks like Dakota clarified a little bit on his question. Is the generated report, does it appear official? Can it be sent directly to a customer? So the way we do the reports, we can push it right over into your PSA, that ticket. That is one way to see what is going on with a metric. In that case, it's in your ticketing system. But our reports today are really designed to be digested by that technical person within your team. Our reports aren't pretty. They're not going to throw your logo on it. Typically, they're CSV files. So there is some confusion aspects if you're trying to send that out to the customers. And again, really the big time savings with Liongard is the time savings by having all of the right data, the most up-to-date data for all of your clients in that same unified visibility platform. So you can quickly identify what, you know, who has this firmware that's recently vulnerable, or who's running this mouse, or who's doing this or that. So that's the power of Liongard, is to really empower your local employees to 10x themselves. Look at that. I'm glad I answered that question, Dakota. Following up on the reports, could someone comment on the power of the data print in general and the uses for that? Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit during the presentation, you know, and showing you the data print. You know, that's all of the data that Liongard captures. And being able to pull the data out of there that matters to you as the MSP for your customers gives you a tremendous amount of power. You know, gone are the days of saying, well, these are the 7 alerts that you can use, and you can't do anything else outside of those 7 alerts. We allow you to pick the metrics out of the data print that are important to you with the help of the Liongard library, which is community sourced queries of other people that have built metrics. And then once you have that metric, then creating the actionable alert thresholds and customizing that with even additional metrics to cut down on your noise. So absolutely, I don't think I can underestimate it, or without, you know, getting into a full demo of the capability of our data print. Definitely take a look at it, go through the process with your account manager if you're not familiar with it, with your PSE, or if you're a prospect, ask about it on the demo.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to dive into the reporting, we do have some previously recorded webinars that are on our doc site that you can check out, or you can get that as a demonstration from your account manager as an existing partner, or from our sales team if you're just looking at Liongard for the first time. But very powerful stuff. And by the way, so one of the things that I like to highlight just briefly on the reporting piece, remember with Liongard, it's unlimited users. Okay, so you can actually grant your customer read-only access to Liongard, where they can only see their environment and their systems, and you can build the reports and the metrics that you want them to see in there. And instead of giving them a stale report, a PDF, give them access to the live data, the most current data. That's much more powerful, in my opinion, than giving them a PDF with your logo on it.
Yeah, don't have to
All
deal
right,
with
we've
people
got
coming through the.
go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just gonna build off what Sean was saying. I mean, it's so nice to have people who can go and find their own information, not coming to you to have you get something that they could just access themselves and, not pull you away from your work or save you a lot of time.
I think Derek wins with the hashtag of the day, the I'm lazy hashtag. Are you working with RMM vendors to provide install scripts? We already have deployment scripts for ConnectWise Automate, Continuum, Datto RMM, Kaseya VSA. And by all means, if we have a sandbox, I'm more than happy to sit down and help you. I've written probably 150,000 different scripts for SolarWinds Enable. In fact, I probably should just go in and write one because it doesn't look like we have a script out there for it. But the reality is, talk to your support, talk to your partner success engineer, talk to your account manager. If you're running into trouble with something, our support team is here to help you. But at the same token, we do have some that are already pre-built, ready to go.
Also, just as a quick nod to our support team, they're amazing. I love those guys. It's so great to get to work with them and get to talk to them. So, if you would jump onto the website and ask them questions, it is just always a great experience.
100%. Any other questions that are out there, Matt?
Well, it looks like we're good.
Do you have data backing the troubleshooting time savings you're talking about? So, Matt, I think do I have, statistics in front of me? No, I think somewhere in Liongard we might. And I know there's some videos of other MSP owners that have testified to the time that they've saved. When I talk about it, I bring it up in the context of I spent 6 years in the MSP space before joining Liongard. And in that, from VCIO to director of ops to service manager to everything in between over those 6 years, the time savings that I saw from the onboarding, the billing, line item adjustments to make sure everything is set for billing, the service desk was tremendous from before Liongard got implemented to after Liongard got implemented. And it's because, depending on the reasoning behind or the purpose of it is, Liongard is that auditing tool. So you don't have a senior level engineer auditing every system when you're doing an onboarding. They're going out, they're deploying Liongard. Typically, then a lower level tech is deploying it, and then Liongard is auditing it to your best practices. On the billing, no more is the billing person saying, hey, Scott, I need you to verify license counts for these 5 employees that you manage. Now it's them logging into Liongard because we don't bill by the user, verifying the license counts themselves. So it's eliminating that escalation path. Or from the support desk, being able to identify what changes have occurred. I think most common, it's like, no one's able to work. The whole world's falling apart. We need help. We need help. Here's your hay bale. Good luck finding that needle. With Liongard going in and running all of the inspectors, giving it, maybe 5-10 minutes to run through all of the different inspectors, but then coming back and saying, oh, I see there was a change on the firewall. Let's dig into that because that's probably where now, instead of the hay bale, you have a pile of hay and the needle in your hand.
Yeah, and if you've ever been felt that you've been held hostage by all the knowledge of a customer being stuck in 1 or 2 engineers' heads, why not change that? You level the playing field when you have data across all of your customers that everybody on your team has access to. Okay. And so if somebody goes on vacation, somebody's taking some PTO, then you don't have to worry about it. When you're onboarding a new member to your team, instead of spending weeks trying to get them up to speed on your customers, you point them to that one place that gives you unified visibility across all your customers. And they have the whole history there that's going to tell the story, and they're going to be able to dive in and immediately start making an impact to your customers too. So that data is gold. Data is what makes Liongard the most powerful solution that's in this space.
And it's also on top of that, yeah, Matt, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to kind of get a better sense of what some of those time intensive tasks are looking like for you, so we can see if, there are places where Liongard can really give you that big return on time that I think we all hope that everybody gets.
All right, awesome. You want to drop the link one more time for the existing partners if they want to do a meeting with one of their account manager, learn a little bit more about this. Remember, you have this today. This is available to you immediately, and we want you guys to start leveraging this across all of your customers. But if you want to learn more, want a deeper explanation on a one-to-one scenario, our account management team is ready to do that for you. And if you're new to Liongard and you want to learn more about the solution as a whole, because remember, the endpoint visibility piece is just a part of what Liongard does, right? The solution goes all across the stack, cloud network, on-premise apps and services, all the way down to the endpoint. You guys have a ton to manage. You can't do it with yesterday's technology. You got to have visibility across the stack to be effective. And it's a scary world out there. It's not what you know that's going to hurt you. It's what you don't know that'll really cripple you or your customers. So get some visibility into it for sure today.
And for those interested, I just dropped a link into the chat with a case study on time savings and efficiency from one of our partners.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Help us spread the word.
Hey,
Thanks.
I'm gonna go. Okay, that's it, I guess. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Sorry, there's still questions coming in left and right. You guys are doing a fantastic job.
We can hang on for a few minutes if there's more
questions.
questions.
We can hang. Okay. I got time. I don't have any other meetings today. I'm going to clear my schedule. I'm just going to go for a walk after this. I got another question from Derek saying, I'm reading the docs. Can we use the endpoint inspector if we don't have a Windows agent in an environment? Can you clarify that?
So the endpoint inspector for what we discussed today for that Windows 10, that Windows 11 workstation, it does need to have an agent, and that's your Windows system. If we don't have a Windows agent in an environment. If you're reading it, I think in terms of we use Linux inspectors in our environments, no Windows server. So we do have a Linux agent as well. So you could go in and deploy a Linux agent on a Linux system and then use that to scan the firewalls, the switches, things like that. But when we get into endpoint visibility, it is one agent per workstation, because with work from anywhere, that system's not always going to be in the office.
On the server side, if you have one server in your environment, you can do all of your inspections from that single server. It doesn't require an agent on each server. But on the workstation level, you do need to have that agent on each of the workstations.
Yeah. Got a question here from Barbara asking, is there a Mac agent? Not yet.
I like where your head is, though.
Yeah,
stay tuned.
Who gave you the password?
Barbara,
yeah, we are going. So this is one of the things about endpoint visibility, right? We wanted to work really hard to get this out to you soon so you could start changing the way you're managing Windows workstations, because they are such a huge part of it, but it is not a static product. We're going to have more inspectors coming. We're going to have more huge pieces of functionality that are going to bring even more data that you use all the time into the umbrella of Liongard. So that way you can just go to this one place for your information, and you can actually spend your time using data and not hunting it down. I mean, like at my old job, I worked in another sort of data-rich environment in laboratory safety, so a little different than tech, but I mean, they had to deal with so much real-world data and hunting that down. And man, when you have trained professionals who have to spend their time wrangling information that should just be automatically presented, there's no faster way to guarantee burnout than having somebody who's like really talented just doing grunt work.
Awesome.
With that,
okay,
I don't
Derek,
see any questions, so I'm going to say goodbye and make it final this time. Everyone, attendees, thank you guys for joining us. Again, honor to be here with you guys.
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic time. Thanks everybody for all your engagement, your questions. Derek, we will get you connected with someone on the team so we can dig deeper into what you need to know. And I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I'll talk with you on your next webinar. Cool. Bye, everyone.